Good evening, everybody. We're here with episode 149 of the Westmarch Workshop of Hype and Sorrow. Coming off of what was probably one of the bigger announcements in the Diablo community, we kind of walked into another announcement today, which probably is one of the biggest announcements for the Blizzard community as a whole, and kind of has tempered everything within like the hype levels, throughout the community, and especially the Blizzard family itself. I know that my Twitter feed pretty much for the past couple of hours has been nothing but references to it. I'm sure Leviathan, yours has too. So just kind of want to maybe jump straight into it. And yeah. So
go ahead.
Yeah, we unfortunately have to go through and start this episode with the announcement that Mike Morhaime is actually going to be stepping down as president of Blizzard Entertainment, and is going to be kind of stepping away a little bit from the company and taking more of just an advisor role.
Yeah, this came as shocking news to both of us. We were in the middle of another conversation regarding some news that we'll discuss in just a moment that transpired, just maybe less than 24 hours ago. And suddenly we're hit with this shocker. And I guess it makes sense in terms of timing. This is something that I imagine Blizzard wants out ahead of BlizzCon, because BlizzCon is always this really upbeat. They're never going to tell you what they're not going to do at BlizzCon or any sort of people stepping down or things. It's always just like rush of happy emotions and inclusion and lots of good things to come. So it makes sense. And potentially I was wondering this kind of out loud in my tweets and then collecting my own thoughts, but I imagine we won't see Mike at the opening ceremony now.
I have to agree. I definitely have to. It seems like it would almost be out of character for them to go through and have them there when now the president is the J. Allen Brack.
Right. You probably would have to, in order to not undermine the passing of that torch, really have him be front and center, take on that same role that we're used to seeing Mike in, and really, for the face of the company, show that this really happened. This is a thing.
Mm-hmm. And that's, it's definitely not the first time that we've had some sort of big announcement of somebody going through and leaving the company. But I guess it isn't really necessarily leaving, because, unlike Metzen or Rob Pardo and such, he actually is still staying on to continue work as an advisor directly to the board.
Right. And so there will still be some influence.
Mm-hmm. And, he went through and posted, kind of like a goodbye letter to the community, because out of the entire letter he goes and he talks about working with some of the people at Blizzard, particularly J. Allen Brack, Aled Andheim, who is also taking a step up into the executive leadership of the company again, because he had recently just rejoined the company 2 years ago. But he'll continue development on like the new games and IPs, like the incubation projects that he was working on. But within his letter, Mike Morhaime's letter that he went through and sent, it focuses a lot on the community itself and ends with the fact that he looks forward to being a member of the community alongside all of us, to be hyped about everything that Blizzard is going through and doing.
Yeah, it put a smile on my face thinking of a moment where you could be wandering through the convention hall and happen to see Mike, sitting at one of the tavern Hearthstone bench tables and playing a game of Hearthstone with, some random person across from him. Like, that could really be a reality going forward, which, is pretty sweet if you think about it.
Yeah, it really was. And, now that you mentioned that, it reminds me of when Josh had stepped down as game director for Diablo 3. We ended up seeing him, that year at BlizzCon. I think we were walking through the Mythic Hall, and he was just kind of standing around talking to somebody with a beer in his hand, and just was like, "Hey, I know who you are." And he was just having a blast, like just chilling, taking everything in as an audience member, instead of being up on the stage that he'd just been a year prior.
Yeah, that was pretty cool to see as well. It speaks to how I don't even know the word to use, but just the trance, I guess, that we all undergo when we become a part of this community. You never really leave, regardless of whether you have a role and you're stepping down from it to a different one, or if you completely step outside, the company, the community is always still intact, and you relate to it in some form or fashion, whether you're now just a player, an observer, an avid fan, a cosplayer. Like there's so many roles to take on, and no matter which one you swap from, there's always another one for you.
Yeah. It's because it's of course leaving on good terms. It's not like he's being pushed out or anything else.
That's right.
Yeah, so it is, just having just kind of like, taking that step down. I'm waiting for like the fan art of, like Mike Morhaime, like up at the podium, and then like the next panel stepping down into the stage, and then the third panel him just sitting in a chair in the front row.
Dude, yeah, that'd be dope. With the same childlike excitement like all of us.
Yeah. That we all feel every time.
Oh, yes. I wanted to share quickly something I wrote from, not tonight actually, but from when you and I, were at the Mixer before BlizzCon started in 2016. We both happened to just be at the right place at the right time, because Mike was coming over from the Children's Hospital of Orange County benefit dinner that people can buy, really high price tickets to, that go towards benefiting that hospital. And, it's never necessarily the case that he will come over to our Mixer after that, but we just so happened to run into him. And I just remember from that conversation, I think it was you that was brave enough to ask him for a picture, and we got one. And then I wrote a caption here on Facebook, just that feel when you meet the man who has been responsible for creating epic adventures for millions of Blizzard fans across the globe. Easily one of the coolest and humblest CEOs I've ever met. Every time we gave him a compliment, he instantly attributed it to Blizzard at large, the amazing people employed there, and the community. Simply legendary. Yeah. And I just felt that was really fitting to, as I was looking back and trying to jog my memory of, any interactions with him, I was like, wow, that really does sum up kind of the character of the man.
Yeah, everywhere I've heard stories about him, whether it be that, he's at every single one of the new hire orientations. He's always front and center, making sure that everyone within Blizzard feels like a part of the family. To just that he will take the time to just stop and chat with anybody that stops him on the convention floor, and that almost year after year he can go through and be found in the Hilton lobby talking about StarCraft. I want to say that Mike Morhaime is without a doubt the biggest StarCraft fan in the entire world. I don't think that...
Uncontested.
Yeah, uncontested at all. You have no idea how much this man tweets and talks about StarCraft 2.
I love seeing it too, because it has that really down-to-earth feel of, he's just another person in Twitch chat or wherever he's watching, like us, and he doesn't know the outcome either. It could be Cyril, it could be Maru, it could be anybody, it could be SOS. It's so cool to see. It gets me riled up.
Yeah, and so it's I guess this is almost like it's an end of an era, end of an epoch.
Oh, for sure.
Because it
27 years.
Yeah, since founding. It's been him the entire time. He's been president. So, yeah.
To the future, I don't know if you have any interactions or knowledge about Jay coming in now, Jay Allen Brack, but I guess he is pretty storied in the company as well, coming from the WoW side of things as an executive producer.
Yeah, it's apparently he's been in the one that's kind of been in charge, kind of spearheading, driving the development. Maybe not so much from the creative aspect, but from the just overall general aspect of it, which does of course involve some of the creative aspects of it. Giving direction. Maybe we should go a little bit this way, a little bit that way. Helping get the story and the art and all that together. And yeah, so he's going through and is stepping up to take over. I know I myself personally haven't had any interactions with him, but everything that I've heard about him has been just phenomenal.
Absolutely, yeah. And you talked about it right at the outset. Just if you go to Twitter right now, your timeline is probably still flooded with goodbye memories and postings and things. But another part of that has been the welcoming of Jay into the new position and well wishes for him and high hopes for the company going forward. And I would echo that sentiment too, that it does seem from the employees and people that are talking about him who have some direct connection to him already, everyone seems pretty excited for his opportunity to take on that leadership position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. It'll probably take a few years, I would say, if any changes would kind of show themselves, if there will be a change in style of direction, or if Activision maybe has a bigger hand in things or whatnot. Because I just feel like those sorts of changes don't show themselves overnight.
Yeah, which is one thing that I do also wonder, because in addition to being president of Activision Blizzard, I could have sworn that Mike Morhaime was also on the board of directors for Activision Blizzard.
Oh.
And there wasn't any announcements about his role within the greater company.
Okay. So maybe there's more to come on announcements, or
maybe, or he could still have an input at least on the higher end, because Activision Blizzard itself is the shell company that owns Activision, which is the publisher, and Blizzard, which is the developer.
Gotcha.
And though, like, Bobby Kotick is the CEO of both Activision and Activision Blizzard. Right. The kind of whole, that familial relationship, cross interaction and stuff like that is definitely confusing. But
oh
yeah, I don't know how much or if any effect that will have on the greater scope of things, but yeah, we'll see.
Waits to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're definitely, I think maybe as a closing remark, just we've been noting not only the change of the guard with, some of the eyes on employees leaving or stepping down or changing roles that we've been kind of covering for the last multiple years now, but I would say even looking at things like the Battle.net desktop app, seeing the inclusion of things like Destiny 2 and Call of Duty, like there really does look like a melding or at least a change of, I don't know, just kind of what we've come to expect between this division between both, and maybe this could do more to bring that all more seamlessly together. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it could. It definitely could. But I do think, like what you said, that it'll probably take like a couple of years before we see any of these types of changes kind of coming to light. But it does make sense. At least maybe taking a little bit of a different take on things for how to move the company forward, since now Blizzard is becoming part publisher with those changes that you mentioned, with like the inclusion of Destiny and Call of Duty and such. They're kind of like the digital publishing arm of Activision Blizzard, and we'll more than likely continue to see more and more Activision published titles end up on Battle.net.
Yeah, that's something I definitely keep an eye on going forward.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that takes care of some of the more sombra stuff. And
there.
Hey, just using my brain, using my noggin. I think we can delve into more hype news.
Yes.
All right, man. Let's get that energy level ratcheted back up, because, like you said, right before this bombshell kind of dropped on us, we were already taking a whole different tact to how this episode would go, because that BlizzCon schedule is out.
Choo-choo!
Oh, man. And the future is in front of us, but we still don't know what the future is. Look at that image.
we don't. We just don't. Because this is like... Now, I don't even know where to start, because for the longest time, I have continued to be the holdout, saying, I don't believe Diablo 4. I don't believe Diablo 4. It's got to be a remaster. It's got to be something else. It's like, like all signs point to something other than Diablo 4 this year. And then we get the schedule. that beautiful schedule. And let me go through and pull it up here on the screen, and just look at that. A little piece.
I'll ask you, do you know where you were when the BlizzCon 2018 schedule was revealed?
I think I was still at work.
Were you sneaking glances at your phone? Did you see Twitter blow up?
Pretty much. I think that is one of the things that went through and that hit me. We were doing a network switchover, and so of course I'm still working on it to this day. But yeah, that beautiful panel right there, Diablo, what's next? Immediately following up after the opening ceremony. And now, if you don't understand why you should be hyped about this, that's because every single time that they have, how should I word this? Every announcement that they do, that's like kind of like the big tent pole, the marquee announcement during the opening ceremony, is then immediately followed up by a panel for that particular title on the Mythic stage. Last year, it was the Battle for Azeroth, following the Battle for Azeroth announcement. The year before that, it was Hearthstone. You know, the year before that was Legion. After that, I think it was
the big boy,
Overwatch, and then Warlords of Draenor. It's continually has been what is the kind of like the big announcement that they make, and then the next panel. So like for those people that want to be a part of it, they just sit in their seat at the Mythic stage.
Oh man, yeah, this is important, and I think that's the only word I can 100% with confidence like place on this, because at the same time that we see this happening, we still have no clue what it means, though. It's certainly unprecedented territory for Diablo, at least from the BlizzCons I can remember and have attended.
It has definitely been a while. Let's just say that. We're going back to pre-2010.
Yeah. Going way back.
Yeah.
We just, you know, it's kind of been one of the remarks that a lot of Diablo fans have come away from BlizzCon with, is when will we get our time to shine on the main stage? Will the Diablo franchise even get a mention on the main stage? And now we're seeing, like you said, leading right after the opening. So all eyes, listen, the opening ceremony is free for the whole world to see. And so when I tell you that literally all eyes, anyone that loves gaming or understands what Blizzard is going to be watching the opening ceremony. So imagine with all of that focus and attention at that moment, and then to now be seated right at that same spot where we just got charged up seeing trailer after trailer on whatever Blizzard has decided to show us for 2018, then to have the next panel be the Diablo panel. Like you said, don't even have to leave your seat because you're right at the stage where you need to be. Like, it sets, to be really bad with a cliche, it sets the stage for something potentially major to just be dropped on us, man.
It is definitely one of those ones where it's like I'm alongside you. Like yesterday, I bought into it. You know, I got my ticket for the hype train, and I'm like,
choo choo.
Diablo 4? Does this mean Diablo 4? But
yeah,
there's still that part of me that's like, it's two panels. So it's just two panels that we got. Basically, the opener and the closer. We're sandwiching BlizzCon. And it's like, if it was D4, would this be kind of like going all the way back to like the Worldwide Invitational in 2008, where they kind of like showed off D3 and it was just, you know, like the announcement, a cinematic, and like 10 minutes of gameplay, and that was it? You know, or could it be something along the lines of last year's Battle for Azeroth announcement, where we then got, you know, classic WoW announced? You know, could it be like, hey, here is the Diablo Netflix series, or here's the Diablo 2 remaster, here's a Diablo mobile game, which everyone wants to meme about. Oh, and by the way, we also will confirm that we're working on Diablo 4, you know, but then not talk about it for the rest of the convention. Like, could that be it?
Right. That is kind of where we're at, because we already have this sort of marching order from the Future of Diablo video that Brandy put together. We've been keyed in on the fact that there are multiple projects. And so that's something that we always have to have in hand, and that's kind of been our ammo for the last few months of excitement. But it still doesn't clarify anything, because it means you could get an announcement of something and there's still something else, and there's this other thing, and what gets the, like you said, the big sort of push at this BlizzCon? Will we only get a tagline that says Diablo 4 is coming? And will that be enough for everyone if something else then supersedes that and becomes sort of the big takeaway from BlizzCon, whether it's a D2 remaster, whether it's the mobile game that everyone seems to be not wanting or scared of? Like, you know, it's still so much uncertainty, and I think you kind of captured the ethos of this well in you want to be so unrestrainedly hyped and excited and say D4's coming for sure, but at the same time there is that little part of you that has reservations of, I don't know if I should go all in with all the chips just yet.
Yeah.
It scares me, man, because I want to cry. I want to like have tears of joy at this BlizzCon.
I mean, that's one of those ones where we might not know till we're on the show floor, you know.
Scary. But I think maybe the biggest thing is that you said it. We're not far away now, man. It's what, 30 days as of this recording until BlizzCon drops. And I was thinking, we're thinking about 30 days until actual BlizzCon, but we'll be in California sooner than then. So technically our trip is not even that far away, you know? Yeah. I mean, it's coming up quick.
Yeah, it really is. And then it feels like once you're there, it's done. You know, time just flies so fast.
It zooms. Yeah, absolutely zooms. One thing I do want to quickly mention, because I don't think we actually talked about it yet, but the second panel, the one that you said kind of closes the show, it's the Diablo World and Q&A panel, another 45-minute panel. And the little write-up for it is just join the Diablo developers as they explore the world of Sanctuary, and then stay well and listen as the team answers your questions. And this is something I saw Dreadscythe kind of trying to decipher the tea leaves on. You know, why would they be talking to us about the world of Diablo? Don't we know the world of Diablo already? Aren't we familiar with Sanctuary? The Book of Ages is going to come out before this BlizzCon, and that's kind of dealing with some of the things of the world of Diablo from the bestiary perspective. So, you know, it does start to raise quite a few questions of why this, why that tagline, why are they, you know, whenever you're taking such a large step back, it seems like it is setting the stage for something brand new. I actually think back to sitting in on a little bit of the BFA panel that came right after the opening ceremony, being completely lost, by the way, but they're talking about like the Zandalari and all these different continents, or I don't even know, maybe cities that they hadn't been to yet. And I kind of get that feel from this. And like, are there other places in Sanctuary that they're going to take us to? Like, you know the lore best. There are other places we haven't been yet, right? Like Scovos Isles, or
like when you go back and you look at the actual map of Sanctuary, there is a lot that has left to be discovered within the world of Diablo. Man, let me see if I can go through and actually find the map real quick to go through and pull up on the stream. But I mean, it is like untold amounts. We barely have scratched the surface. We haven't even been, you know, as you kind of like mentioned, like we've barely even been to like all like the continents. There's the Scovos Isles of the eastern continents. Like we've seen Chaldeum and Kuros, and that is it. You know, we've seen 2 locations in this massive body. So there's a lot out there.
And I guess the caveat with that is, even if we're going to other places, that doesn't necessarily locate us in a brand new game, because one thing I think that I have always said I really don't feel is going to happen is still an outside possibility, whether a low chance or not, which could be an expansion to D3, right? It seems so improbable. I still don't really buy into it as a potential being a project in this multiple project universe we live in. But at the same time, you could venture to a different locale within D3. So I guess my whole point in bringing this up is that just because we're exploring the world and we're thinking about the idea of going to new places, it could still transpire in a currently released project.
I mean, it definitely could, but I am with you. Just with like one of those rumors that have kind of been floating around with like that Diablo is like going to be handed off to the Classic Games division, and now that we see like the Switch port is being handled by the Classic Games division, kind of helps leverage that theory. I'm also still along the lines that I really think that there's not a lot of chance that we'll see an expansion or a character pack coming to Diablo 3, at least anytime soon. Once the Switch project itself is done and pushed, and that Classic Games division could work on something else, maybe at that point. But
I think that's fair. Yeah.
So I finally have the map up here, 50 years later, of the actual game, and so you can see there's a little dot over there by the Gulf of Westmarch, which is Westmarch, and then a little bit to the east of that is Tristram, where Diablo 1 took place, and and you also visit in Diablo 3. And then a little bit further than that, you see the monastery, which was Act 1 in Diablo 2. And a little bit past that was Luke Ghislaine. And then we go over to Kurast. And then we go all the way back up to the Ariat Crater up top. And that was all of Diablo 2 and a little bit of Diablo 3. Except in Diablo 3, you go over to Caldeum, and then to Ariat, and that's it. So it's just we've barely touched anything within the actual world of the game. So if they're looking to go and continue to expand and build the story or the lore and get us over the next year or 2 years or however long it takes for them to actually finally announce indoor release Diablo 4, if they're going to be taking all this time to get us a bit more well versed and everything, that would definitely be awesome and cool if we're going to be seeing a lot more of the world.
Yeah, and if you feel like that is an approach to take, when you look at this multimedia format of how they're releasing content, it starts to line up a little with, if there is going to be this Netflix thing, of course that's yet to be confirmed officially, but that could be another way to bring in an audience that, if you don't like to read, suddenly you're watching Diablo lore content potentially. Again, the Book of Adria as another outlet for more ensconcing within the world. Who's to say that they won't do a more traditional book, something written by the team that they have there now? I believe, Lord forgive me, Christy Golden, is that her name? She's like a staff member now with Blizzard, so they're always working on just developing more story in-house. And we saw this too with the D3 rollout, with the short stories that preceded and kind of gave some background to the characters. So I would imagine, if we do get that little hint of a D4, it might not be the last we hear of it, because there could be these little things that all lead us towards it over the years that it might take to further develop.
Oh yeah, I mean, the previous two books that we got, the Book of Cain and the Book of Tyrael, both preceded Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls. So with the Book of Adria coming out, it kind of stands to reason that there's something that's going and coming. It
gets me so excited. Oh man, I don't know what to do with my life.
I really I'm right there with you. I have this duality that's kind of going and combating within me about should I just unrestrain the hype and then just give into the community, or should I still kind of hold back and just have that certain level of skepticism, oh, it's too good to be true. It's too good to be true.
We can't go full Reddit user yet.
Yeah. If it,
we still have at least one more podcast to do.
Yeah, if it is like Diablo 4, would they put it out there on the schedule just as plainly as that for everyone to see, or would they hold that back a little bit?
And that is potentially the biggest thing here too, is how much of the hand do they play? Because think about back again to previous BlizzCons when Overwatch was revealed, there were blank spaces in the schedule, and a lot of murmuring was going on to, okay, that's never, or at least that's a huge oddity. So they have to be hiding something, and that was such a big opening up. You could approach it from two ends, where it's so different because it was the introduction of a brand new IP in however many years since they had done something like that. So it could be sort of a special case, and you could say, well, Diablo already exists as an IP, so there's no reason for them to do like a huge blank out schedule rollout.
They could hide it in plain sight.
And then they could hide it in plain sight.
Yeah. Well, just like what you were saying, it's like they don't need to have like the big rollout. They don't have to like hide the panel because it's what's coming next for Diablo. It could be anything,
You guys know Diablo, yeah. It's we got some stuff,
yeah.
And then
if they were to say, prior to 2014, put a panel in that says Overwatch, what's next? Everyone would be like, huh?
Yeah.
What's Overwatch?
Who's in Overwatch?
Yeah.
How do I watch that?
Oh.
Is the new streaming platform?
Right?
Yeah. So I guess we don't really move forward in terms of concrete knowledge from any past episode that we've done, but we're just at least a tiny step closer to having this whole puzzle figured out. I think the best thing is we know by the time that a month has transpired, we'll have something. There will, it's not like we're gonna get there and will they announce it or won't they announce it? We know they're announcing something.
Something.
We're gonna leave with something. Just how heavy will it be?
Yeah, I like that. Whatever isn't bolted down.
I'm taking this with me. The painting was a gift.
You have to believe me. Gotta catch me. One other interesting thing that I kind of noticed from the schedule is that we kind of have, I guess, that they did say that this is kind of like the preliminary schedule, and so it might not be like the full thing, or there might be like some changes. There's fewer panels.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's only the 3 panel stages: the mythic, the community, and the mythic, epic, and legendary. And the epic and legendary are in the North Hall level 2, which was the new area that was just opened up last year, and then the mythic panel. In all the other halls that there used to be other like little tiny panels and such, they have now all completely become esports. So A, B, and C, which have slowly been becoming like, oh well, this is just the StarCraft stage. This one is like the Hearthstone stage, and then we have one other panel stage here. That's now like 100% esports. And then the North Hall, the bottom floor, is all Hearthstone esports. And they'll probably like put maybe the Darkmoon Fair over there. But yeah, they've like cut down on the number of panels, or at least the panel stages, I should say, based on what we've seen so far.
So where does that lead you in terms of, you just think there's potential for there to be some last minute switcheroo?
I think it might just be more that it seems that they're was it concentrated coolness? I think was one of the terms.
To borrow a term.
Yeah, to borrow a term, so that they might be cutting down some of the stuff and focusing more so on kind of like bigger and better things. And also that could mean that there is more floor space for demos. Since they're not trying to fit a panel stage and an esports stage into each one of those halls.
I think this is actually a great opportunity to talk about the floor plan, which we don't have a map of yet, if I'm remembering that correctly, right?
You are correct. Okay.
So that's something I guess we can also keep an eye out for. Maybe we'll have that by the next episode. But one thing I did read from Polygon earlier today was actually, a little bit of a preview of things to come to BlizzCon in this particular year. And it sounds like they're making a big push for following up on Mike's opening statement from 2017, where he was really giving us this huge call to arms to take care of each other, not think of this as just a community, but as a family, to really dive into including one another and respecting one another, diversity. And so now they're actually rolling out what they're calling the inclusion nexus, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what this is supposedly just I guess you could call it a safe space, or a space created particularly for Blizzard employees to do almost, they're calling like TED Talks. I would almost refer to it as like the lightning talks, where they will be able to have these open forums of them discussing their lives at Blizzard. I believe they'll be discussing like LGBTQ issues, all sorts of things that kind of fall into that vein of just celebrating the vastness and the diversity of both Blizzard and also our community. And I think that's actually really sick that, you know, they're taking what we're noting as precious space within the convention center to make sure that this is a thing that they're pushing forward with.
Yep, I believe they said that it was going to have room for at least 200 attendees.
So that's not a small space.
Yeah, no, and that, like you mentioned, it's going to have kind of a very wide range of people coming in to talk about different things. That doesn't necessarily have to be like, you know, like their background or their history. Some might just go up and talk about like what their job means as, you know, someone with a disability, or, you know, someone as a person of color, you know, within the community, to just share their experiences. It really is. Blizzard has this massive commitment to that inclusivity of making sure that no matter what your background, your culture, your race, or anything, that we're all part of the same community. We're all one family, more or less.
Yeah, I think it's great too, because I think it's easy to look at a lot of what's been happening across the, well, entertainment industry, more global, or, you know, as a global term, but particularly within gaming. I don't know how much you've been following like the Riot Games news and things like that, but, you know, there's a lot of companies kind of under fire for some pretty ill practices, and it's great to see Blizzard be essentially the paragon and leading by example in terms of, hey, you know, there's a lot that we can say, but let's show you what we can do as well.
Yeah.
And put those words to action, and, you know, start to really foster this idea of, you know, we don't just say what we say, we mean what we say.
And that actually calls to mind another comment that I saw, taking a step back to the Mike Morhaime announcement. I think it was from Adam Holinsky. He's like the founder and lead editor for Blizzard Watch, or BlizzWatch. That he went through and said that amidst all the turmoil and, you know, all basically the shit show that's going on across a couple of different developers, like you mentioned, like everything that's been going on at Riot Games with like all the sexual harassment allegations and just the negative workspace. Why is it that with all these other things going on, that the most inclusive developer is the only one that has a president that's stepping down? You know,
A poignant statement.
Yeah. Just, you know, it's like a sign of the times, more or less.
It's a food for thought there.
Yeah.
To be sure.
But it does make it cool to know that, like, that amidst, you know, all of these things, that, you know, Blizzard is just always a welcoming place. You know, they at least have got your back.
Absolutely. And that, again, to kind of tie this whole our two topics together, that really was another one of the things I was seeing within the, you know, Mike Morhaime reminiscing. I can even think of, you know, Brandy's story in particular, where she just talked about her multiple interactions with Mike, and, you know, a time when she left the company, or I shouldn't even say left, when she was let go from the company and then was able to come back. And, you know, Mike, kind of her interactions with him being instrumental in essentially getting her back to Blizzard, and just this idea of no one person is like too small or, you know, inconsequential. Like, everyone comes together to make this whole thing run as a machine and work as well as it does. So I think that's awesome, man. And I'm really looking forward to seeing not only how this goes, but also how it helps to evolve BlizzCon further. Because I think one thing to bring in here is, you know, a lot of people were asking, and often do ask, you know, how excited are you now that you see the panels, or, that, we have Diablo news coming, and I'm like, dude, I was already excited to go to BlizzCon before I knew anything. And the idea is, it's about the people. Like, this is our family reunion, our homecoming, our Mecca,
yeah.
our trip to, the people I see once a year but talk to almost every day.
Uh-huh. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said Mecca, because that's what it feels like to me. Like, it's one of my first thoughts when I get off the plane at home, that, man, I can't wait till next year.
You already start, craving going back.
Mm-hmm. That was my when my company got bought out, and we then had like another like corporate merger and such, and it was back in February. We had a new corporate staff. Like, when I introduced myself to the regional manager, and just was like, what is it that I need to know about you, that, or something. What should I know about you as a person? Well, I take the first week in November off every single year, and there's no change in that.
It's blocked out. Can't touch this.
Yeah, that is like one of those things, because that is kind of like in the theater industry. That's like one of those like big like release windows type thing. Because I mean, like I've gone out on like Spectre, Thor Ragnarok, Doctor Strange. They're not exactly tiny movies and such, and so it's always been something that is kind of like. It's always a little bit of a point of contention, but it's always just like, this is what you need to know about me. I take the first week of November off every single year. There's no changing it. My ticket is like pre-bought. Then, like, if it becomes an issue, well, consider this my resignation. I quit on November 1st. It's just
nothing will stop this, man, except for
a kidney stone.
The one thing mightier.
Yep. And the funny thing is I like that, I don't know, it came up in conversation like a couple days ago, because one of my other friends had gotten like a not a kidney stone, it was something else. I can't remember what it was now. And it was just like, how long ago was it that you were in the hospital? Oh yeah, that was 2014. I don't remember because of the kidney stone. I remember it because it was the Overwatch announcement. It's like, Overwatch was announced in November 2014. That's when I had my kidney stone.
The order of operations there is important.
Yep.
Yeah, man, that really is a thing we mark our calendars by. It's so important, and it's just always so awesome to go back each year. So again, I think we always do this, but a call to anyone that has ever considered if they're going to go, or hemmed and hawed on the fence, like, try your best to go at least once. It is hard to get a ticket, but again, tickets do become available, like, especially right now. Probably people are doing their most to offload tickets if they have extras and stuff, because now we're really close to the event. Or even if you just want to come out to Anaheim, because the thing is, a lot happens inside the convention center, but so much more happens outside of it too. So you can always still be a part of the hype of it all. I really, really strongly urge anyone that loves the community, loves people, loves Blizzard, just try.
Oh yeah, half the convention happens outside the convention halls. It's at the Hilton, at the Marriott. The food trucks. In the walkway leading up. To the convention center itself. The IHOP like the night before and stuff.
The two days before.
Yeah, my quest for baked potato soup. It's just like some of those things that it's just, if you're like in the area and like a drive out to Anaheim really isn't anything for you. Now the parking might be. But, like, you should stop by. You should just come, hang out, have a couple drinks. You're going to get, like, a pretty big portion of the BlizzCon experience just hanging out in the area, at the after parties and all that. It is worth it. It is definitely worth it just coming out. And I've said this many times, many years now. A friend of mine goes to BlizzCon every year, and he never buys a ticket before the convention. He goes through, he books his hotel, his flight from Tennessee out to LA, flies in, does not have a BlizzCon ticket. As soon as he lands, the first thing he does, he just pulls up like Craigslist or eBay, and then just goes on, finds a buyer, Goes, meets them at the convention the Thursday when the tickets actually become available, walks over, gets the ticket, hands them cash, changes the name over to him, and he's done. Set. He's got his goodie bag in hand at MSRP, no markups or anything like that, and didn't have to go through and try and click in line. So it is possible. It can be done. You can still go to BlizzCon even if you don't have a ticket if you want to go. You just have to go through and take solace in the fact that there will be hundreds of tickets that are available the day before the convention that you can go through and purchase.
Oh yeah. And that's our community, man. In a nutshell. There to support each other, there to help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Oh, I can't wait. Is there anything else that we really need to touch as far as BlizzCon goes?
Not really anything else that I can think of. I guess I want to circle back to a little bit. We kind of touched on it, the whole Book of Adria thing.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We really haven't heard too much from Blizzard, but the release date has been standing firm on a multitude of different retailers. October 15th. So by our next episode, we will have that book in hand. Be on the lookout. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be cool. As soon as I can get my hands on a copy of that, I'm going to be writing something about the lore that's contained within it. And one of the interesting things that they did with the Book of Tyrael is they actually had, I think it was 1 or 2 character entries within the book that did not exist prior to the publication of it. I know it was definitely Morbdred. It was like an Morbdred. I think was the name. It was a tongue twister for me, but then again, most names are. I have problems with Bob. That he did not exist in any shape or form until that book came out. It was like, who the hell is this? And then we got a short story, like a couple of months afterwards that, of course, starred him. So who knows? We might get even more indications of things to come in the Book of Adria, in less than 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, man. That's one where I was saying on the last episode, I have a little tradition now of reading those things, finally, on my plane trips out and back from BlizzCon. But I think maybe, because I have mine on pre-order, so hopefully it would be delivered on the 15th. If I get it, I can try to speed read ahead of the episode and be able to discuss it a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. So, ooh. Is episode 150 going to be a lore episode?
Oh my god, it's the lore episode!
Episode 150, everybody. It's the lore episode.
I'm suddenly feeling sick.
Oh, if it's a solo episode, then it is definitely the lore episode.
The lore episode, yeah. I could have tag in for me? Lieutenant Lunatic.
I was just talking with him the other day, man. He's actually been back and he's been playing some Diablo. He's been knocking it out in the season. Oh my god, we haven't even talked about season 15.
Oh man.
we haven't even mentioned it once in this entire episode. We're like, what, 50 minutes in?
Yeah, some other things kind of came up.
Yeah.
There is a season happening though, I suppose.
I guess so. It's out there. Yeah.
Just kind of shows you where our minds are at.
When a new season is like the lowest item on the priority list.
For real though.
Yeah, not to discredit. I have forced myself to have free time, and I've been knocking out quite a bit in this season so far.
Yeah, I've been impressed by how much I've seen you on and destroying stuff. You've really been putting in work, man.
Yeah, and I was actually, what is it? And almost as if to entice me in, my Greater Rift 70 clear, where I unlocked primals. My very next 70 that I ran to level up gyms, I got a Primal Dainty's Binding.
What?
That was my first primal of the season. In my second rift after actually unlocking them.
All right, guys, it's been great. I'll see you guys at BlizzCon. I'm done.
It's 100%. I think I found 5 more, and it's like a Sabor's Nightmare, a Grandfather, and a whole bunch of other garbage since then. So I
you
think
used up the good luck earlier.
Oh yeah, I'm one and done so far in this, but yeah.
That's pretty sick, though. That definitely will keep you. It really feeds that. Oh man, one more drop, scenario where you're like, hey, my luck's gonna be running like this. Let me keep playing.
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely been one of those ones where it's like it's really pushed me that it's like, well, I already have something that's worth augmenting now, so I guess I got to go through and get like at least. And then it was kind of like gauging, well, where do I put my first set of augments? Is it 70 or should I go up to 80 now, or I don't know. So I think I last stopped at working on getting a gym up to 80 to go through and augment that belt. But then the Heroes of the Storm Halloween event started.
Oh.
Yeah, and sorry, I've been playing that.
Well, I saw you were logging in a lot too. I think when Mephisto had just launched as well.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on him?
A lot of fun, but he needs. He's one of those ones that definitely needs support, because if you don't have anyone backing you up and you're going up against an experienced team, he's relatively easy to counter. Because all of his damage is in the Lightning Nova, and it is actually a ring around him. It's not a full AoE, it's just in a small ring around him. And the best way to counteract it is just run towards him. So when he teleports on you, you run into him. Since all the heroes more or less have like the same speed, unless you're playing with someone that can actually actively slow your opponents for you, because it's really hard to get a sufficient slow, even with the his skull has a slow associated to it. It's not really high enough to get that little narrow window on. You almost kind of like want a freeze, a root, or a stun or something so you can keep them in place. Because then Lightning Nova just absolutely destroys anybody that it touches. Because every time it does damage, it increases its damage on the next tick.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that sounds like it's maybe a high, or making a list, a higher skill cap potential usage. You got to like make sure you position properly, but also B, one of those heroes that really encourages some coordinated team play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely, when you're going through and you drop those first couple Lightning Novas and your opponents kind of sit there or they run away, it definitely, you feel like, oh, this is gonna be an easy game. But then when they start immediately running towards you, it's like, I'm gonna have to work for this one.
They know.
Yeah, but he's a lot of fun. And I've just been kind of going through and working on getting all of my Diablo heroes up in levels. And also falling in love with like one of my first loves in World of Warcraft, Whitemane. She is a damage dealing support. And is been a lot of fun. A lot of fun to go through and play. So I'm playing a non-Diablo character, and I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
The treason! Don't worry, guys. We'll leave him in Anaheim.
Please?
I know, right? It's like, wait a minute, is that a bad fate?
Yeah, don't threaten me with a good time.
Well, sweet, man. I had to have a little aside there for some heroes action, because I definitely have seen you log in some time over there.
Yeah, but how's the season been going for you, sir?
Got off to a really cracking start, man. The opening night, I did my standard group outing with Tuba Hero, Rain Bay, and Jathleen. Some players that I met up with last season. Most people know Tuba Hero by now. A pillar of our Blizz Pro clan at this point. And we, murdered our start. And we didn't really do anything that was super hardcore with a lowercase h in terms of like, we need to do these strategies to execute the fastest, efficient time. But I think it all just sort of luckily came together. I was on my Demon Hunter. Tuba had a Wizard, Rain had Crusader, and Jathleen was playing Witch Doctor, so, a bevy of classes. But throughout the experience of leveling, we lucked into all the experience items, man. It was Leoric Signet, followed by Leoric's Crown, followed by Leoric Signet for another player, followed by, hey, I got Canes, hey, I got Borns, hey, I got Canes. And just able to really roll that snowball. And when we got to the level 40 for the crafting, I think everybody hit level reduction 29, or even, I think might even at some 30s. So it was nuts. Like, everyone was able to contribute in some form or fashion, and we leveled to 70 in just over 2 hours.
Wow.
We just missed the 2 hour mark. As a 4-player party that wasn't trying to, smoke it by any means, I was really impressed.
That Yeah, that definitely is going through and pushing some. What difficulty were you playing, and did you keep it on hard or did you kick it up?
So we did hard before the level reduction items, and then once we got those, we only went to T1 because we still wanted to play it semi-safe. And I think it's an interesting, that's something I think we'd have to crunch numbers on because admittedly, we probably could have gone higher, but also being in T1 allowed us likely to stay in fully EXP'd out gear longer potentially because Rain and myself never took any of our stuff off. Like I had my Canes, Borns, Leoric Signet the whole way to 70. I think he had a similar setup. And I do believe at some point we dropped it to master as well because things were dying a little slower and hitting a little harder.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely felt like, hey, maybe if we go to T2 to start out, then drop T1, then master, could have got that sub 2.
Yeah. I think it was season 13 or season 12 when I did one of the solo openings. I remember having that where I had a I didn't have a level reduction item, but I had a shadow hook drop for me, and then I had the corpse whisper pauldrons, and then I took it to Torment 1, and I probably should have hit it up to Torment 2 or Torment 3, and that was, I know, one of the faster clear times that I had because I think I was maybe at like 2 hours and 45 minutes on my level because it was just it went crazy. The force multipliers that I had, just corpse lancing everything.
That's the thing. Once you get those items that give you the multipliers, and some classes have a way easier time of lucking into those than others. Sorry, DHs. Yeah, it really goes crazy. Necro has a lot of really strong ones.
Yeah, and like Crusaders with the shield. What was it?
The Garda Johanna.
Oh yeah, that was another one where it's just like, well, blessed hammers and everything dies now.
One shot city. Yeah, man. So that was a really awesome start. And then from there, it really does lend you an advantage because once you're at 70 before everyone else, again, the snowball is rolling. So now you're getting to your 6-piece set likely before many other players. Therefore, you're able to get into those higher torments, higher GRs. So I was able personally to grab a couple of rank 1 conquests, I think mainly just from having such a fast opener. So, we always say too, if you're focusing on that aspect of your season, trying to get high ranked conquests, it really does behoove you to have executed strats in terms of like, okay, this is what we do to get 70. This is what we do once we hit 70. This is what we do, for the first hour of post 70 or Hadric's Gift or whatever. So I was stoked, man. That was so much fun from Friday to Sunday, and also Level with the Cause being a part of that too.
Oh yeah. Which I believe, was kind of a resounding success. Over $5,000 raised. Yeah,
man. The community again banded together, brought the roof down. I believe it exceeded Wolfcrier's initial goal for the campaign this time around. So that's always an awesome mark to hit. And Save the Children, I'm sure, was very happy.
I bet. Level with the cause. Putting a reason behind why we game.
I love it, man. And that's one of the things I always look forward to at the start. And then that pretty much, sums up that kind of first weekend. And since then, I've actually been working on solo self-found stuff because a lot of people have been asking, what's the deal with the solo self-found league? You're not running it this season. So I handed over the reins. I stepped down as president of the solo self-found league. I didn't issue a forum post statement because I'm not as important as Mike. But I did indeed hand that over to Garth from Andrew, who's one of the community members and admins that was helping me initially with SSF League, getting it off the ground. And he really has revolutionized it in terms of like organizing it better, in my opinion. He's running a shorter version of it now, which is kind of interesting because it feels far more immediate, far more like it kind of gets back to what I almost imagined for it initially, which was like this rat race of like, oh man, if I miss a day of logging in, like, I gotta stay paragoned up with everybody else, and another chance to get another primal so I can beat the other DH that's racing against me for higher GRs. It just really makes it feel immediate. So it's only a 4-week league this time around, ends on October 21st. And it's going well so far. I am the top ranked DH in the SSF league at the moment, so come at me, bro.
Come at me.
I'm gonna try and keep that title. But yeah, it's been fun, man. And I actually been on Europe for this, and my God, man, you never feel like more of a first world complainer when you're like, oh, my MS is 130. These vaults just feel so light. It's like, dude, you connected to a server across the Atlantic Ocean and it barely lags. But I'm still crying about it, okay?
Well, I mean, definitely first world problems. I think like by definition.
Literally.
Yeah.
Ugh, this MS and my never ceasing connection of internet connectivity.
Wait, so you're telling me you have so much fresh water that you piss in it?
You can't make jokes when you drink.
You're welcome.
Oh god. Woo. So yeah, man, season 15. And have you experienced much of the boon of the Haradrim yet? Have you run much bounties? I feel like it won't really become a bigger deal until probably a little further into season.
I do have to say that I haven't been doing too many bounties. I think I've only done about like 3 runs of bounties so far.
About the same.
But, you know, 2 of those 3 runs have been at Torment 13. And I think that I've now tried re-rolling like this one Scythe of the Cycle at least like a couple dozen times. You know, just because it's like, well, holy shit, I have so many of these mats left over. Why not? Like,
why not?
Yeah. Normally I wait until later on in the season, but it's just like I've got like 70 of everything just sitting here. I might as well give it a shot, you know?
It's burning a hole in your pocket.
Yeah, it really has. So I have, yeah, it's actually has, even if it's a little bit, it has affected my seasonal play.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I would say, again, like I haven't done too many either, probably a similar amount to you. But one of the things it has helped with is getting those initial bounty-only legendaries. So, you know, a lot of builds might utilize a Ring of Rogue Grander in the cube or an Avarice Band, and just having a double chance at it every time. You know, you hear those horror stories of, I ran 45 Act 1 bounty runs and I still don't have a Ring of Rogue Grander. Like, okay, maybe it's only 20 this season.
Yeah, maybe it's only 20. Thankfully, I got mine in the very first run, so I'm done. Hey. I don't have the you know, target farm any of the act bounties. I'm good. I'm set. That's GG. Cubed. I'm done.
Dunzos.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you die, you're still done. Got that in the cube.
Yep. It's all good. Not losing that one.
Word up, man. Well, best of luck in continued S15 success.
And to you yourself as well, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
And yeah, I think that that might actually. Oh, there actually was. Now that you mentioned the solo self-found, while we're still on the topic of that, Big Daddy Den is running his own kind of version of a solo self-found league. But right. He's taking it like a step further, where it's 0 sets. So you're not allowed to use any set whatsoever.
All legendaries, no green.
Yep, and I think it has to be on hardcore as well.
I believe that is the stipulation.
So there was like a whole bunch of stipulations on that one. Let me see. 100% solo on hardcore, no set gear allowed, only 1 character can be used, any class that you prefer. 1 green item is allowed on gear, but only to be used as a stat stick. No picking up bounty keys or any other types of boosts from friends or public games, no power levels from friends. If your character dies, you can change your class. PC version only. We'll be going through and checking it, you know, and such, and the character must have Z set within their name for tracking. You can use, of course, like challenge rift mats are allowed, Kanai's cube is allowed, yada yada yada. But yeah, so it's pretty interesting going through and taking like one of those ideas that we've kind of always thrown out there of, you know, what would it be if they actually did a season where sets didn't drop, or only Blackthorns, or XYZ, you know? Yeah.
No, I love this because it really is the community. Oh, and this is, okay, so allow me a bit of a soapbox.
Okay.
Because, all right, I'll start out with the preface, which is that I love seeing this because, you know, as somebody who had an idea similar to this and was near and dear to getting it out the door, I love when the community takes into their own hands these challenges or these ideas born within the game, even if they're unofficial, to showcase that there are so many unique ways that you could play the game, and to have them codified would make the administration of it so much easier, right? Okay, now with all that said, one thing that I've been bandying about here and there, and I've gotten nothing but positive feedback on this, is imagine a world where the developers, we have to burden them at some point to say, okay, there's a little bit of work we want you to do, but once that work is done, you're done. And the idea here is that instead of them having the onus of creating these leagues over and over again, you know, if it became sort of the seasonal theme where they are changing the rules in a drastic way, they'd have to keep doing it each season, right? Or maybe set up a couple of them and then have it hopefully automatically run. But if they gave us the infrastructure where we could set up a community or a clan or whatever that has, you know, the leaderboards, because you can sort your leaderboards by clan in D, and this is all just thinking about in D3, but probably the best expression of this is in a new game with, you know, built from the ground up, new infrastructures, etc. So the idea here is they do the work of putting together essentially what is an in-game mod system where you can say, okay, I want to uncheck group. So now this is a solo only league. I want to uncheck sets. So now sets don't drop. And the game has all these things where when you're creating a character, you can maybe tie it to, I'm joining this community challenge. And now the game regulates what happens within the challenge league and stuff. It's, and of course, like behind the scenes, there's probably a lot to make sure that all those checkboxes relate to changing the way that the game plays. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying it's easy by any means, but I guess the main idea here is that it would help us be able to take the power to have a zero set league or SSF league. And whenever these ideas strike, it doesn't take us multiple months and spreadsheets and forms to come up with all the outside infrastructure to regulate them. It would all already be there in the game. And then players might feel more enticed to join in because, oh, well, it's part of the game. It feels a little bit more official. It's not me worrying about, well, I see that there are rules, but who's going to follow them? Yeah. You know, it's just kind of this, tell me how you feel. Is this something that you think would make sense or at least be a place to start?
I mean, it's something that maybe not necessarily exists kind of like in ARPGs, but exists, you know, in a lot of FPS games, you know, PC-based FPS games where you're able to actually go through and spin up servers with specific, you know, mods or modifiers, you know, applied to that server with, you know, like limited spawns or taking out these weapons from spawning, or we're going to increase the cost of like the handguns for those like Counter-Strike map, you know, all these different types of things where people have taken it into their own hands to make mods for it is more or less just kind of adding mod tools into the game. A lot of those things we know at some level kind of exists because class sets don't drop in difficulties lower than Torment. Right. So we know that there are modifiers for dropping items. There's even other modifiers such as primals. Primals won't drop until you've cleared a certain greater rift. So there is something that you can edit within the game files to count certain things as triggerable. And then there's also different identifiers in there that, you know, makes, you know, the light orange or green to identify as a set item. They're within the, like the different loot tables to, you know, so you can kind of just drop out set items from loot tables and such. So it definitely sounds something that would be doable, and I think probably the hardest part of it would be just kind of like making a user interface for it all. Like how many steps do you go, you know, with the options that you want to be given when you like kind of like spin up your own custom server, so to speak, for one of these like game types.
Right. Yeah. Like how much toggleable options do you get? You know, I would love if it starts out simple. It kind of feels to me it could be one of those things. And again, the idea is not even for them to touch it too much once it's created, but maybe you do start out with, all right, here's the basics of even some of the leagues that already exist that we see players participating in. Let's make sure that those can run within this infrastructure. Okay, that worked out. Sick. Can we do a little bit more? And then maybe at some point you finally stop tinkering. But Yeah, man. It excites me as something that if we want to key in on the social aspects of the game a bit more, you could make communities matter, make clans matter, because we always felt clans like started out as a really cool thing and then just never quite got enough features to be crazy awesome.
Yeah.
Just leverage those features that kind of all could interplay with one another.
Yeah, to have it, making a clan something a bit more than just a community chat. So that way it does have, I can play in my clan's server mode, whatever they happen to be doing this season,
So cool. So cool. So yeah, I guess that's my new, how I always have a crusade? That's my new crusade.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that whatever form, this Diablo announcement or what's next, from Diablo next, like a solo self-found league would have to be like a bare minimum, because I think Path of Exile is kind of making that something that's like a bog standard now for the ARPG. That just is something that like has to be included.
That's kind of cool that you say that, because I think for so long we've always looked at D2 as the gold standard, right? And I think most people would argue it still is. Like, it's certainly the pinnacle of where the genre has been. And we've seen innovation after it. And I really do feel that PoE has done a really good job in advancing the genre with some core concepts, or even like tinkering of core concepts, things that you feel now are, you're almost like, why wasn't this included to begin with? And it could just be that no one ever thought about it, or it was a lower priority. But yeah, I would say like going forward, you can certainly say that PoE has shaped a bit of the landscape, that kind of what you now consider to be the standards of the genre probably will be affected by that game's existence.
Yeah. In complete anthem to the way that the communities interact, we know that the GGG and Blizzard developers are actually like good friends. There's a lot of cross communication between those teams. They play each other's games, and they ask questions and kind of share design notes and such. So there is already a lot of kind of interconnectivity between Path of Exile and Diablo as kind of like a design point. And so I would definitely expect to see some things that people have taken to, like the solo self-found league and Path of Exile, in the next iteration of Diablo.
Fingers are crossed, man. That'd be sweet.
Yep.
All right.
I think we're running out of things to talk about at the moment.
I think we did a pretty darn good job of covering some pretty big things.
Yeah. There's some heavy topics for today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And with that, I don't think that we really have any community emails, but we do have a couple of items of the week to go through and showcase here.
Nice.
So we will go and switch over to that. And so our first item of the week here is the Pauldrons of the Skeleton King, and you might be thinking, why are we going through and showcasing this? Well, I'm not sure if we've ever really showcased Pauldrons of the Skeleton King like it's a primal, but what have you. But the reason why we're going through and showing this is because these Pauldrons come in from Longshot, going through and stating that this is in fact his first primal that he has ever gotten.
Wow.
And these bad boys clock in at 650 dex, 650 vitality, 516 armor, a chance to deal 20% area damage, and the secondary stats of 5.1 chance to chill on hit. And just in case you're wondering what Pauldrons of the Skeleton King do, when receiving fatal damage, there is a chance that you are instead restored to 25% of your maximum life and cause enemies to flee in fear.
So yeah, man, Skeletons of the I can't even say the name of the thing. What is it? Pauldrons of the Skeleton King. The only time I can think of these even being somewhat meta was Lawn Bombardment Crusader. The shoulder slot has been one of those where the legendaries in general aren't all that great. Like maybe the biggest one would be like Deathwatch Mantle or the Town Portal Pauldrons.
Yep.
But this is kind of interesting because it does give you another chance to live again. It's kind of nuts that it's a % chance, so it's like you may live, but you could also
die.
Hardcore fan.
And I do I do remember you mentioning that. I think this was like early Reaper of Souls before they started redoing the sets. That a lot of classes were using these pauldrons because it was mostly legendaries with with sets still at that point didn't really matter. They were talking prior to Raider Rifts.
And also relatively farmable because this is actually kind of nuts that, you know, this is his first primal during the Boon of the Horadrim season because it is a bounty-only legendary.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah. And then our second and final item of the week, this one comes in from 42. We have a Primal Dead Man's Legacy that's going through and rolling at 1,000 dex, increases attack speed by 20%, 10% critical hit chance, has been re-rolled for it reduces the cooldown of skills by 8%, reduces all resource costs by 8%, with the secondary of 12 maximum discipline, and of course, multi-shot hits enemies below 60% health twice, and deals increased 200% damage.
That's really nice. Because even though you're thinking to yourself, but doesn't the Yang's recurve come with this insane RCR on it? You still want more because you just burn through the multi-shots so quickly. So having that roll there on the quiver is not bad at all, especially for bounties because you're using a lot of discipline with movement.
Yeah.
So it actually ends up being really sweet.
And 42 had actually mentioned in the email that once he finally gets a pair of gloves that has rolled with cooldown reduction on it, he will be switching over the cooldown reduction to multi-shot damage.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's a nice quiver. Give me that.
Yep. Very nice indeed. But with that, I do.
No,
believe...
I mean, give me that.
Oh, okay. I will. I'll work on that.
File. Can I have the file, please?
Sure.
Can you 3D print it?
I think actually, yeah. I think it does actually have the Dead Man's Legacy's unique model within the game, so you could actually extract that from the MPQ files and then turn that into a 3D printable item.
I'll be one step closer to being Katniss in real life.
There you will. Which actually reminds me, there's been a lot of activity on Reddit lately with all of these announcements and such. Someone actually asked when we were going to restart the podcast with Flux.
Well, he'd have to stop talking about his Demon Hunter first.
I'm glad that you went there. But yeah, it was just funny because that's the second time that I have, heard you referred to as Katniss today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a blast from the past.
Ever so slightly. But yeah, I believe that is going to bring us to the close of the episode. If you would like to go through and send us your item of the week, or if you want have any type of cool story or want to go through and have us talk about your Demon Hunter on the stream, you can go and shoot us an email at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. Again, if you want to go through and send us something here on the show, it's westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. You can also find us. We're on Twitter at the WM Workshop, and then we stream here every other Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. And then while you're here, feel free to go ahead and hit that follow button so that way you're notified every time that we go live for an episode. And then you can also hang around and check out, we have the BlizzPro Adventure Club with a couple of the other guys from around the BlizzPro community, DJ Tyrant, Charlie, Eldorian. They all get together and play some random games. Sometimes Blizzard games, a lot of times not. But you can go through, check them out. And if you want to support the show or BlizzPro as a whole, feel free to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That $5 a month goes for a very long way to help support the hosting costs of not only our podcast, but Well Met, in the whole BlizzPro network of websites, including diablo.blizzpro.com, where you can actually find most of the topics that we talked about on the show and more over there. So please feel free to go through and check out diablo.blizzpro.com to go through and see a lot of the things in written form, as well as the thoughts and feelings, because Dreadscythe really is the guy that runs that aspect of the community. So definitely go through and check out everything that he has to write and what his thoughts and feelings are on all of the announcements and such that's been going on lately. And by all means, we are in game. We are the BlizzPro clan. We've got a lot of spaces right now, so if you want to go through and join some pretty active people to knock out the rest of your goals for Season 15, go ahead, send us an invite. Drop us an email and let us know who you are and why you want to join the clan. And of course, you can always join our in-game community if you don't want to leave your current clan. We are the Westmarch Workshop community, so go ahead, stop in there, say hi. And then you can even go through and find us discord.gg/BlizzPro, because pretty much every day that I have been playing Diablo, and a lot of the days that I've been playing Heroes of the Storm, I've been hanging out in the Discord chat. A lot of the times I'm just talking to myself, but hey, you can change that by coming in to the channel and having me talk at you. So feel free, make me not seem as crazy. And finally, you can follow myself personally. I'm at 9ballgamer on Twitter, and I stream occasionally at twitch.tv/9ball. But you can also follow my friend here at LeviathanD3 on Twitter, and he streams a lot more often than I do at twitch.tv/Leviathan111. And with that, transitioning us to the outro screen. Segueing to final thoughts.
Hey, next episode, Big 150.
Big 150, and it's a lore episode.
Oh god, lore. It finally happened.
It's happening, and you're gonna like it.
It's gonna lore all over me.
Oh, don't threaten me with a good time.